he's
cousin. I
tight.
think he's
No,
coming
dude.
for
No,
you.
no, 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 dude. Oh my god! Oh no! Dude, he's looking right at me! He's looking right at me, dude! Dude, he is.
Dude, he said buenos noches.
Hell yeah, brother. You're on the Cleetus McFarland YouTube channel.
Girl, what happened to you? Looking rough these days. All right, so we got a damage report today. We're pulling apart Toast. We wanted to look at the damage on the frame rails and the shock tower that moved and just see how out of the realm it is to fix this car and get it doing some skids while we figure out the next step with transplanting this bad unit. What we got here is all the parts that came off the front end. Trans cooler took a pretty good hit. It basically was mounted real low under the car, and when the front end snuffed down, it crushed the fan and it popped a hole in the cooler. So we're gonna need a new trans cooler. That's the first thing. Our dry sump tank is gonna need a little bit of a buff job, but it's holding fluid. I'm gonna pull it apart. These things come apart in a couple pieces, so I'm gonna pull the lower section off, inspect it, make sure that it didn't crush anything inside that needs to be repaired, but I think that's good. Burn down box looks totally fine. It was up in the front. It took a brunt of the hit, but nothing got bent or damaged. Coolant overflow tank and the surge tank are pretty much minty fresh. I way overbuilt these things. When I was doing this build, I wanted to make sure that no matter how hard that thing right there hit a wall, it was not going to crack and spill methanol under the car. The last thing you want on something like this is a methanol fire. They go up fast and they burn really, really hot and violent, and the flames are pretty much invisible. Doesn't have a nick, ding, or dent on it. It's got some tire rub from when it got shoved up into the wheel well. The radiator, however, took a pretty good hit, and it is definitely leaking from the fins. It got smashed on the frame rail pretty good right there where it was in between. The front end on this thing is toast. It is toasted fully. I mean, it came apart in chunks. That's all junk. That's scrap it and maybe hang that fender on the wall or something cool. But then when you come over to the car, this is the important stuff. Luckily, the big thing is these lower frame rails. This car is a unibody car. If that thing gets crushed and gets pushed into the firewall, there's not a whole lot we can do to fix that. This upper frame rail, however, that can be moved back pretty easily. I mean, you could pretty much tie this thing to a tree and pull it with a forklift and straighten those out. This side is perfect. Nothing got moved on this side. This tube kind of deflected, but it all came out of that bend and it tweaked a little bit up there, no big deal. This tube, however, got bent pretty good, so that's got to get cut out for sure. This tube smushed into the frame rail, but it didn't move the frame rail, it just crushed this end plate, so we're good there. And then this big kink right here, it's kind of a proud dad moment. That big kink is actually from the fuel tank pushing into the frame rail so hard it kinked it over on itself. But it didn't damage the tank. I'm gonna pressure test all that stuff and double check, but it looks like it's good. We weren't leaking any fluids from it. When I pulled it off, everything was still totally full. The worst thing that we have is this right here definitely got moved. It's got a crumple right here in it. It's not pushed back, it's just bowed over. But like I said, I'm pretty sure we can strap this the car to something, hook that to the back of a truck in 4-low and literally just pull it right back to where it used to be, at least good enough that the car is drivable again. So as of right now, the game plan is cut this whole tube front off. We're gonna retube it. Back when I did this tube front, we didn't have a bender or a notcher, and we had a company send us this tube front. It is a great tube front, but it is for drag racing, and it did its job flawlessly. These things are supposed to collapse. You want them to absorb energy. You don't want this stuff to be so rigid that the car hits the wall and the driver takes all the hit. It's got to go. We're going to do something a little more rigid.
isn't so toasted after all, folks. We got this thing torn down, you got the front clip off, and the only thing that's really out of whack is up here. The lower frame rails are actually fine. And in our research while doing this, we have realized the toast looks really cool without a front end on it. I don't know if we'll ever put this back on.
I think we hang that fender on the wall for like
Yeah.
sake, and the rest we throw in a dumpster or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we might kind of do what we did with the back here with the shaped up metal bumper. We might do that with the front end and run this thing a little bit longer before we change it into a new chassis. Ty is just kind of gonna cut loose with it, see if we can figure some stuff out, make it look cool.
Shoot from the hip.
Yeah. And we're gonna yank this out with the forklift here in a minute. We might have something on our hands here. We might still have a toast.
We should have done this to the 240.
I know. No need to pay anyone when we got this McFarland body right here.
Brought to you by the Shyster 80.
I think just a light snatch is gonna be the key here.
You got to make sure that you have the XL2, not the 1, because the 1's just not big enough.
I mean, it is 9,000 pounds, so it probably won't take a whole lot to bunk it out. Oh! I see how it is.
Dude, those welds
Dude.
just fully compressed that strut
Put a jack under this front right here to try and keep the body
from rolling.
Yeah.
It literally just took
It
this.
body rolls.
It just compressed this all the way. All right. Make sure in the body shop you have the finest Pittsburgh aluminum jack for this.
Yeah, we paid about $26 for that. And it broke on the first day of use. The pin came out, so yeah,
This is precision right here.
Oh. That was promising.
How's the measurement going here, Ty?
Yeah, about 3/4 of an inch
Needs
more.
a lot more.
Hold on, that looks way better than it did.
Didn't it really move?
Oh, it moved.
So it's this right here. I don't know. Unless that grease pops out. Probably.
Do we need to hit it again?
Oh, we got a daylight between that header tube and the frame rail now.
Oh yeah. That's funny.
Is that a non-metric or metric measuring stick?
We only use non-metric measuring sticks around here.
Okay. Dude.
Dude, you're gonna laugh. It's like perfect.
Oh, it's not.
It is. 15.5 on both sides.
All right, guys,
That worked out really good.
we're booking one chassis jig a year at McFarland Body.
Yeah. You guys come on by, we'll fix your car up. All right, we are going to put a little bit of front end back on toast so it can hold the radiator and the oil reservoir, things like that. And then we're gonna try and knock the curse out of this thing before we give up on it totally. We're gonna fix the brakes up, make sure they're 100% solid. We got new spindles on the way. I did buy another vehicle to replace this thing, but I got it for cheap. So what I was actually thinking is if we knock the curse out of this, then we take that Steve Morris big block that we have hidden up there, we'll put it in the new car, do an NA big block.
NA as nitrous assistant.
We get a little nitrous on there just for fun. But
That's what NA means, if you didn't know. Nitrous assistant.
yeah, so jump to the Ty doing fabrication magic time lapse, and we'll see if we can get this thing back going.
All right, so we just pulled this frame rail out with the forklift. I went ahead and I cut off that old plate with the tab that we welded on and ground it down and cleaned it up a little bit. I straightened it out, and then I came over here and I cut right here. This is the biggest damage we really took as far as frame rail goes. It punched that plate in pretty far, and it bubbled just a tiny bit right there. So we're gonna knock that back in. I'm gonna cut this off and replate it. And then if you come over to this side's pretty much fine. I am gonna double or plate all of these plates and give them a little more structure, because what happened is the tubes basically just pushed into the plate. They didn't really support the tube very well. Well, gotta make this a square again. Check that thing out. Looking good as new. Threw some ugly MIG welds on it. Now we can start doing this lower tube. So this first tube I'm gonna do is coming out here, down, over, and around the other frame rail. And then I will connect that with the uppers. and then we will throw a tube from this guy right down here off that tube up and around to try to stabilize that upper a little bit more. All right, we got the front lower bent and welded in the car, nice and level. The next step is to bend up this tube right here. That should go roughly like that. And it'll come down and meet up with the front. I've got my rough cut set, so we're gonna cut it and we're gonna throw it in our notcher and notch it. All right, now that the main tube front is all done and welded in, we went ahead and stitched it across the tower. That's good to go. The next part of this is gonna be figuring out where all these pieces are gonna fit and how to mount them and where. And so first off, we got the radiator just kind of as a guideline. I'm doing the fuel tank first, so the surge tank. So the surge tank's gonna go right in this area. I have to cut and modify the bottom to clear this tire so that we have plenty of room. So basically I stuck this thing where I wanted it, figured out where it did not fit, marked it. We ended up having to cut this big corner off right here. This little guy, go in there, and that'll give us plenty of tire clearance. Have it. It's all welded up, ready to go back in. All right, we're about wrapped up on this thing. I got the surge tank mounted up right here with some fresh new tabs. We got the radiator mounted on the lower end. I'm gonna run like a little tube across the back to catch the top and make some tabs there. And we got the dry sump getting mounted up right now. Got the lower tabs done for that. I'm working on the upper. This will sit roughly like that. And then we are about ready to start doing some plumbing. We're gonna have to change up a bunch of the AN lines. We had some that got tweaked and started leaking and stuff like that. And now with things being moved around in new locations, they're gonna have to get replumbed. Other than that, we're looking pretty good on this thing.
Well, that looks a little weird, huh, guys? Check that out. We have a completely empty shop, and that is because we are getting the floors done. This is something that everyone said, do this before you move in so you don't have to move all your stuff out. And they were right. But because I had bought the shop, didn't really have the money at the time. But now it's the end of the year, and I found a guy who's going to do the floors while we are gone for Christmas, and we will come back and this place will be looking amazing. So we're getting her dialed in. This is actually a really good reset because we're gonna pull all our stuff out and put it in a different way that we will like a little bit more. And we'll have some brand new epoxy floors. These floors are just too dull for me. They just, we need to brighten things up in here a little bit. So we're upgrading, and so excited to show you guys how it turns out.